Steve Friend joins us right now. Steve, this is the so-called 1023. Christopher Wray wouldn't admit he had it. Then he says you can't see it. Then he says you can come to the FBI and see it. And they say, we're going to hold you in contempt. He says, all right, I'll come to you. So what is James Comer going to see today?
Well, good morning, and thank you. It seems like he's going to have the opportunity to view this source reporting document, which is essentially a memorialization of a meeting between an FBI agent and a confidential human source or an informant. And from what we've seen in the reporting, it's going to pertain to alleged bribery on behalf of Joe Biden when he was vice president of the United States.
So Jamie Raskin will see this as the ranking member. Comer will see this. Senator Grassley will see this as the ranking member on the Senate side. And then what happens? Because no one's verified this. This person's credible, we imagine. There's some names going to be redacted, I understand. But then what?
Well, there has to be a tremendous amount of inquiry from the House Oversight Committee on this. If this was, in fact, a credible allegation that was made, this was 3 years ago. That means it's been in the vaults of the FBI for the last 36 months, to include a presidential election in which Joe Biden was the primary candidate for office. And if they took no action on a credible allegation like this, there was not even a preliminary investigation, there should be some major questions about the politicization of the FBI.
What do you think? Why wouldn't they, for 3 years, follow up on a 1023 that says the President of the United States made $5 million as a vice president off a bribery scheme?
Well, I think the FBI has just become this woke and weaponized apparatchik for the political left in the United States of America. I think that this information was brought out, and if in fact it was credible from a credible long-term source, and they documented it within this FD 1023 and then just filed it away, as opposed to doing a preliminary investigation or even a full investigation at that point. And they were able to sort of cover their butts with the memorialization and say that there's a record of it at some point, but then just whistle past the graveyard with that information and hope that it never came to light. And in fact, this brave whistleblower who came forward to Congressman Comer and said that it does exist has done a great service to the country.
So you know what would have happened if this was Donald Trump? It would have been leaked to 5 or 6, 7 major news organizations. It would have come out. They would have tried to verify it through every source possible. And we would have had an ongoing investigation over an alleged corruption with Donald Trump. Why is it so different?
Well, I think you just need to look at what recent evidence of how the FBI has behaved itself. I mean, it's when it comes to looking at pro-life and protesters outside of an abortion clinic versus the Antifa BLM riots in 2020, the FBI is clearly picking its victims and picking its subjects and doing the bidding of the left in this country. And it's just not in keeping with traditional law enforcement, not in keeping with the oath of office to protect and uphold the Constitution.
So James Comey feels differently. He's doing a tour, selling a book no one's going to read, talking about how this is just a right-wing fever, condemning the FBI, but the FBI is just fine. What about James Comey's take on the political environment? He, by the way, says we have to do everything to make sure Joe Biden wins.
Yeah, I find that pretty laughable, especially when you take his history, where he, in fact, sent 2 agents to visit General Michael Flynn in the hopes that he would lack candor in some way, and the FBI could open an investigation for a process crime against a national security advisor. I mean, if you show me any greater example of show me the man and I'll show you the crime, that's James Comey weaponizing his office. And for him to sit there now and claim to be this beyond all reproach ethical individual who is impartial and non-biased is just frankly laughable.
Steve Friend, by stepping up and stepping out of the FBI, they've tried to destroy your career, tried to stop you from getting another job. They tried to stop you from writing a memoir, but your story is going to get out. I appreciate you coming forward in front of Congress and joining us this morning.
Thank you, Brian.